everybody, and welcome back to another Indie Comics Talk. Tonight, I have with me Evan Carothers from Woven Press, who is the writer on a new Kickstarter project, Mixology Noir, Book 1. We got two awesome tales in this Kickstarter project here. Welcome in, Evan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Pretty excited to chat.
Absolutely. The project, you sent me it a little while ago, and it looks awesome. We got two really cool noir stories sort of based on drinks and mixology there, which I think that's a cool new take on the noir genre.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a bartender. I was for many years, and I'm very into craft cocktails and not just making them, but also the history around them and stuff. And I've always thought the older craft cocktails that have been around since 100, 200 years ago have some of the most interesting stories, and they've always been something I've wanted to use as inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kick things off, usually I like to have guests tell a little bit about themselves and how they got into, I guess, reading comics, and then from there, what progressed to writing comics.
Yeah, I've read comics on and off for most of my life. I never really got into the superhero genre, so I'm not much of a Marvel DC guy. But I read a lot of early Image books and stuff back in the day. And then I've always been very into all the other fun nerd activities, really into tabletop gaming. I have a side business called EC3D Design that I've been running for about 6 or 7 years that makes tabletop gaming accessories.
Okay.
So I've done, different books and supplements for games, 3D printed designs, all kinds of stuff like that. And that's where I started kind of getting into world building, because I would build stories around how I brought together these groups of miniatures and things like that. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I built a universe called the Ignis Quadrant, which is kind of my own sci-fi world, and did multiple Kickstarters related to that for tabletop gaming, for 3D printable starships and miniatures and terrain and scenery and all that stuff. And then I'm like, I have a lot of interesting stuff here that I've been developing, and I want to tell the story further. So that was my dive into comics. I did a 5-issue story arc that kickstarted for the Ignis Quadrant. And once I got into comics, I've just been in love. It snowballed quite aggressively. I have a lot of stuff in the works now.
Yeah. Once you get your foot in there, you're like, I am not leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I'm staying here. No, that's awesome. The just kind of blending everything together there with the RPGs as well. Actually, during the pandemic, I started getting into that and did some D&D. Actually, on my friend's YouTube channel, we just live streamed all of our sessions just for fun. So I love that. Love that combination there.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of Venn diagram overlap between people that love tabletop gaming, wargaming, and then comics.
Absolutely. So we've got Mixology Noir with two stories in it. So what is the kind of the general premise behind the whole idea of Mixology Noir? And then we'll talk about the individual stories a little bit.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this book for a long time. This is one of those books where I would have made it even if I never sell any of it, because it had to see the light of day. It was kind of burning a hole inside me.
Yeah.
It's a book inspired by a couple of different bars that are near my home that I've just spent a lot of time in over the years, where I've been writing and working. I go have a cocktail and work on, a tabletop supplement or whatever I did. And they're very unique bars. One of them is a Russian vodka bar with weird Russian music videos on TV and dim red lights. And then the other bar is a swanky old supper club with exposed limestone, a couple 100 years old. And these places, going to them and then drinking certain types of cocktails at them and talking to the bartenders and the stories of them, it just, kind of solidified over time these stories that I wanted to tell.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the impetus. And the book itself is a book that I wanted to be able to appeal to non-comic readers as well. I want it to be a book that looks so high of quality I can set it on a granite bar top in a supper club, and somebody would be like, oh, this is interesting. What is this? It kind of fits the vibe. So it's 2 stories printed back to back, 231 sequential pages each. So it's a 76-page book, including both of the covers. and it's going to be pretty sweet. It's got foil, embossing, soft touch laminate, all the fun bells and whistles.
Nice. I like the idea of it just sitting at a bar and someone could be like, "Oh man, I want to or read this as I'm getting my drink at the bar, hanging out, pick up a copy." Do you have plans to,
Yeah,
I guess, work with some of those places and see if they'll put them out there for you?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of my local places have already told me they would do that before I even started it. And I think this will be a book that'll sell pretty good at cons too. I think when people can hold it in their hand and see kind of the tactile feel of it and the way it comes together with the two different stories and different art styles. And obviously the name, there's a lot of connotation in mixology and in noir, but it might
Yeah.
have, cocktails as the influence, but at the end of the day, it's two horror stories, right? Whether you care about cocktails and drinking or not, you'll still find a lot of great stuff in here if you're a fan of horror.
Yeah. Let me put up here some of the, I guess, let's show the covers here first of all. The one for Sazerac here, and both covers were done by the same artist, right?
Yep, yep. It's
Yeah.
his name is it goes by DNS. Yep.
Yeah. I think he did somebody else's cover recently too, or maybe interior arts. It's a name that I've seen been popping up on Kickstarters recently, and so I appreciate the art style.
Yeah, very good. Every man in terms of illustration styles does a lot of fun stuff, and he's done some really cool credit pages and stuff that are not sequential pages for upcoming books of mine too.
Very nice. But yeah, just for anybody watching, can get a look at the interior art. It's all on the Kickstarter page. I'll drop the link over in the chat right now. But the artwork inside is incredible on both stories. I think you've got two different teams on them.
Right.
So who are you working with on the Sazerac story?
Yeah. So both of the stories are written by myself and edited by Eric Palicki, who's a very prevalent indie author. I'm sure you've heard of quite a bit of his stuff.
Yeah.
And they're both lettered by myself. But for Sazerac, the artist is a guy by the name of Vlad Vav. He's done a lot of traditional illustration and fine art and some comic work, but isn't really a traditional comic artist so much. And you can kind of see that in some of the styling in a really cool way. I mean, he does a great job of framing story elements and panel design and stuff, but it's got something to it that just feels a little different than comics you're used to reading.
I think that's a good thing to have, an artist that doesn't do traditional stuff, right? You can pull out throw out the rule book on comics and just
Yeah.
do whatever. I actually just read
Yeah.
another comic where they are comic artists, but they were like, "We're gonna do no panels. We're just gonna do all splash pages." And I
Oh,
was like,
really?
"This was great. Like, it was a great way to bring in a certain element of the story that they wanted, but they did zero panels." And I was like,
Interesting.
"I don't know if I've ever read a comic that did zero panels."
Sounds like a tough writing challenge to keep the pacing to not rush too fast.
Yeah, it was like bringing in, like, somebody was telling stories from like a notebook, and then bringing everything in. So I love taking the traditional stuff and throwing it out the window to get to tell a story a different way.
Yeah, I think there was another one that was just on Kickstarter too. I can't remember the name of it, but they called it a horizontal comic, but I think it was all splash pages, and the intent was that it moved progressively forward as you kept running the
Okay,
pages.
nice.
So, yeah.
The only horizontal one I've read was Echolands that Image put out.
Mm-hmm.
J.H. Williams, I think, was that the one that did that. And that was also, it had like just this flowing style. It wasn't necessarily though connected over to the next page.
Right.
But again, different style really brought me into reading it.
Yeah, I love it. I love anybody that's willing to take a chance and break kind of the traditional expected,
Yeah.
method of storytelling in comics.
Oh yeah. And then for Vesper, got some awesome art here as well. Both of them really like dark, grittier style, which of course fits that noir vibe that you're
Right.
going for. Who we got on the
Yeah.
creative team here?
Yep. So same writer and editor, obviously, and then the artist is Martin Jimenez. he goes by NN Comics. He's done quite a few indie horror books before that have been in a Kickstarter. And then Itch and Sorry is a colorist, another great colorist who's done quite a few indie books and some direct market stuff as well. Had a great time working with both of these teams, and it was really fun because the stories, when I created them, the production happened almost simultaneously. So going back and forth between the stories for the art style and different lettering styles and everything was really fun.
Okay, awesome. And since this is book 1, does that imply there will be book 2 where you're gonna kind of go for different recipes?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So yeah, the format of this is basically there's each story is the cover, and then there's some interior kind of art elements, and then there's a big art page that is a really cool illustration by another traditional illustrator named Diego Porto. He did all these for the book, but it's got the recipe of the cocktail. So Vesper and Sazerac, if people don't know that, are the names of these craft cocktails that inspire the stories. So the cocktail itself, the recipe is in there for people that are interested, but it's also a very cool art page. And then it goes into the story, each of which I mentioned is 31 sequential pages. And then there's a big spread illustration that ties them together in the middle of the book. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, this is book 1. Book 2 is 80% complete already.
Wow.
And it's coming together even better than the first one. I'm quite excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah. When you think about, I look at Kickstarter, a lot of Kickstarters, and you look at like the price point, we're getting really 2 larger than normal issues,
right?
$20, and typically you're going to see 15 for maybe a 20-something page single issue. So this is well priced, well valued on everything here.
Yeah, I tried to keep it as feasibly low as possible, especially considering the extra features that will be in the printed book. It's got a lot of bells and whistles. With my goal being that I just want to get this thing printed, a big print run, and I think I'll be able to make up a lot of the the sunk costs in long tail sales of this book all over the place.
Yeah, no, I honestly looking at again how you described how you want to put it out there with the foil embossing and the good tactile feel on the cover, which I love when a comic feels different too.
Right.
There was did you read Cult of Icarus from Scout Comics?
Yeah, I'm on issue 3 there now, I think. Yep.
I love the series, but the cover on issue 1, it's so, I don't know, something about that one that I'm like, yes, this is how I want my comic to feel.
Right.
Yeah. So I love hearing that. I love that across the board, indie comics, people are putting out that higher quality of printing than you're going to find at Marvel and DC.
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of the industry expectation in Indie and Kickstarter and stuff now is that people are willing to spend a little bit more money to back indie books, and it's not too much of a stretch to ask them to spend another 50 cents or $1 a book to make the quality that much better.
Right.
For my last book, the Ignis Quadrant, I did high quality paper, heavy paper on all the books, and it sure made the shipping cost a little more and stuff, but it was such a better product to hold in your hand. And at the end of the day, it costs like 50 cents an issue more to make them better. But I'm not Diamond. I don't have to stack 8,000 copies in my warehouse, with spaces and stuff too. So
yeah, I'll say they probably can pack more comics together if they're really thin,
yeah,
low quality paper, and it's gonna rub off on your hands and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely had that happen with a Marvel comic one time. Just I pulled my hand off after I was reading the comic, and then my hand had the ink on it.
Yep, that's one of the reasons I'll never print anything on uncoated paper.
Yeah,
unless there's a very specific need for that look, like a newsprint or something.
So with this one, I know some of the inspiration coming from when you were a bartender and some of the bars that you've been around. What made you go for the noir style with this and the more horror side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been intrigued by noir. I mean, it's not always easy to watch noir film and stuff because you really got to lean into it a little bit. But
yeah,
traditional storytelling advice, always talks about you have to find something that readers can connect with in the characters of the story, for them to continue to be interested. And I thought as a writer, that's a very interesting challenge with noir, because the whole point of noir is that your characters don't have redeeming qualities. They don't have happy endings. You know, the dark tone kind of over, is the pallor of everything. So I thought, I'm sitting in the dark dungeon feeling old bar drinking a Sazerac, and like, this feels like it should just be noir. So
Okay. With future ones, even though it's a mixology noir, are there going to be ones where you're like, you know what, this recipe feels more like a high fantasy story here, and I want to take this in a different direction?
yeah, yeah, I don't think so. I think the book two is the only one I have planned in foreseeable future, just because I think I got what I really wanted out of
Mhm.
the project in these four stories. But and if I was going to do high fantasy, I'll probably just do a genre miniseries or something to dive into it head first.
Mixology fantasy. Uh,
Right. And I definitely took some liberties with noir a little bit. I mean, there's elements of Art Deco and noir and horror and crime and
yeah.
thrillers. And I mean, horror is a very broad category that I think some people get scared of, because it doesn't necessarily, it can encompass a lot of different things. Um, so noir was more an interesting angle for this first book. The second one's still noir, but not quite as noir. It's more squarely horror, I would call it.
Okay. Are there any noir writers out there right now that you like following and will like pick up most of what they put out?
Not specifically. I mean, there's been quite a few writers that'll do like kind of specific or like one-off noirs that I've seen here and there, but I'm not exactly a student of the noir scene or anything. I just have always kind of been fascinated by it.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, I guess one that I need to read more of, and he does. I feel like sometimes it's noir, it's more just like on the crime side. But Brubaker, I feel like
Hmm.
he's kind of got some of that vibe going sometimes. Do you read any of his stuff?
Yeah, I haven't read any of it, but I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, it's a world that like it just keeps popping out more and more of it, and like I need to get into this. Everyone's saying this stuff's really good.
Uh,
Just never happens. Like I even forget what the specific series of titles is, but it's like every couple months there's another one. It seems like
hmm.
they
I'm a
release like the hardcovers through Image,
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
like
Um,
like Endless or something. Reckless. I think
there's another. I think Vault has a double feature they've been doing right now that it's a little more horror, but I've seen some noir elements in that as well.
that's been great. Yeah, that one's been fantastic. The whole creative team on both the stories in that love it.
Yeah,
And
I'm
that's probably the closest thing like out there on in Diamond that could compare to what you're doing here with like the double feature, the size of the comic, the
right.
say
Yeah,
vault.
they definitely announced that, or that came out right after I started working on my own thing, and definitely was somewhat of a sort of for here, reinforcing to me that it wasn't a bad idea to do the double feature. I mean, economically, as an indie creator, like doing a double feature is not the best idea, because you can make more if you do each end as a standalone, but
Yeah,
just the way in my mind the book had to exist, right? So
yeah,
some of those projects, you got to do them the way you want to do them and see how it goes.
yeah. It was weird. It's like all at once there seemed to be like several in indie comic publishers that were doing those double feature type things. Like Dark Horse had Colin Bunn's book come out that was I don't remember what it was called, but it was like a flip book double feature kind of thing.
Hmm.
And so you could read one story in like the front half, and you flip the comic around and read the other one. And then Nightfall double feature from Vault happened,
Yeah.
and then you were messaging me about that towards the end of last year. I was like, all right, this is all everyone is on the double feature
I'm
train here,
here.
and
I,
it's great. I like
you
it.
know, one of their favorite parts of our comics is the cover. So that was one of the things I'm like, I'd love to do a book where I have two covers, right? We have to
Yeah,
decide which one you want to have facing out or be able to display with both covers. Nobody likes all like advertising at the back. I'm like, I just want to make a comic that has content and none of the fluff.
yeah, absolutely. That's the benefits with indie comic publishing is you don't have to put anybody in there other than yourself and your
Right.
team. I guess probably I've probably read a Kickstarter published one where someone got an advertiser in or something, but it's rare that you see that.
Right.
What other things do you pull inspiration from as you're thinking about your stories? You know, your other ones are of way different genres than this. So is there like
Yeah.
music or film or other comic
Um,
books?
yeah, a little bit of music and film, but more of my personal life. I became a father relatively recently, like a year and a half ago. So that's already kind of very much taking over my mindset of what I want to write about. Before the stream, we were talking about another series of mine, Toxx, which is coming out from Blood Moon in July, and that's a book very much inspired by my experience of giving birth, or my wife gave birth, obviously, but I was with her in the pandemic when we were on lockdown and nobody could be in the hospital room, and we were like, man, this feels like like almost like the apocalypse. I'm like, what if we had to give birth in an actual apocalypse? So that was
Yeah.
the source of the story idea.
All right.
So personal life stuff. I mean, I'm a longtime martial artist. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 15 years, and it inspired me as I've gotten older. In that, you have to learn how to train while your body's kind of halfway falling apart, and you're kind of an old dog. So I'm writing a book about a cyberpunk uh, MMA fighter who has to get back in the ring after a lot of years and go through all that same kind of stuff. So just personal experience, I guess.
Yeah, so all kinds of different things happening and taking it into some sort of fantasy version of it, or fictional version of it.
Right. I mean, I'm sure you can speak to this as well, but the cathartic part of writing for me is just taking what's in my brain, that the things I'm not necessarily struggling with, but thinking about and are relevant to me, and getting them out there in a way that helps me think about them during
Yeah.
the writing process. And hopefully, what comes out of that is a story that people are interested in reading and is still compelling. But even if nobody read the stories I write, it's still very valuable exercise for me to be writing them.
That's a good way to put it. To have you want to write for yourself, and you want somebody else to be able to connect with it, but at the end of the day, you've gotten what's in your mind onto paper and like can interpret it in a different way. Yeah, there's. I always say, I keep saying this in interviews, I'm like, I need to find time to actually sit and write, because I have like these ideas that pop up when certain events happen. I'm like, oh, that'd be a good thing to see.
Right.
And it just like one of these times it'll have happened and I'll have actually written something down. But there's a couple things that like it's like, yeah, I need to put this onto paper just so I can think about this in a different way. And I love fantasy. I love sci-fi. I love those types of genres most.
Mm-hmm.
And then horror in there too. So seeing real life through that lens, I think would be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I think honestly, if any writers like out there that's just saying, I am only writing because I want you to buy my book, I don't know if they're writing for the right reason necessarily.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons people write books in indie comics.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people that want to continue to climb the ladder, write for
Yeah.
a Marvel or DC, and I don't take anything away from those folks. That's a great goal. But at the end of the day, I said this before: if I didn't have to sell my books to make money to keep writing more, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I write because I love the art creation process, the putting the story together. Right. I love reading my own books, so it's an unfortunate side effect of capitalism that I have to do all this marketing and selling to continue to make comics. Right. But as long as I can keep making the ones I want, I'll be happy.
Absolutely. But like I think everyone should want to put them out there for other people to connect with and sell and all that. Sure. But if that was like the only motivation was I want your money, and they're not enjoying the process, they're not having fun with the creation part, probably not writing for the right reason. But everyone I talk to has at least I have the story I want to tell. I don't care if it's 5 people that connect with it or 1,000 people or 10,000 people. I want to tell this story because it's personal to me, or I connect with it and I hope it helps somebody else.
Yeah. And as a writer too, the process of going from something that was rolling around in your head for a while to seeing it come to life, when you get work back from an artist is an addicting feeling. If a day goes by where I don't have new art in my inbox, I'm like starting to get giddy. It's the best.
I just disappeared. There we go. My internet connection looks a little unstable at the moment. So sorry about that.
No
but yeah, it sounds like that would be like it's just like, yes, more things to look at here. It's being created, some gratification on that side of things.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Are you reading anything else right now? I know it sounds like indie publisher wise is where you mainly stick.
Yeah, I'm diving into some other stuff. I guess the most recent non-indie thing I read was King of Spies from Mark Miller. I think it's 3 or 4 years old at this point, but
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the espionage genre in general. James Bond is easily my favorite franchise since I was like 10 years old. So that's a genre I hope to write in myself eventually someday too. But it was awesome. I loved it.
I'm gonna say, yeah. When do we get the the book from you in that genre?
It's already written down and ideated, but I told myself I can't make more than 4 comics at the same time.
It's probably fair for your wallet in terms of paying artists and getting everybody on board. With oops, let me pull up this again. Oh, that is the wrong tab. Say with Mixology Noir, what other things with the Kickstarter do you have on there for people that are looking to back other than just the book? I think I had something.
Yeah. So yeah, there's the book, obviously. I guess I didn't really even discuss what the stories themselves were about, but I can touch on that. This is a flip through. I figured people go to their comic shops and they flip through books before they buy them. Like, this book was finished, why not show the flip through on Kickstarter, right? And show how the back-to-back printing comes together.
Love it.
So yeah, there's the book, the main book with the retail covers. Then there's a pledge that also has a version of the book with variant covers by a couple great artists, which also includes an art print, which is done by that same artist, Diego Porto, I mentioned, who did some of the interior art stuff, and then a die-cut sticker that's with a raven skull and a Sazerac, so kind of themed to go with the whole story. So that's the collector tier, and then other than that, it's pretty straightforward. We got some other pledges for individual things, and then a couple add-on options for extra copies. And my last series, the Ignis Quadrant, which is a 160-page trade of a space western inspired by Firefly, Cowboy Bebop, and Star Wars.
Nice. I might have to look at adding that on. Because this was the first time
you like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the first time I'd come across there's so many people creating on Kickstarter. It's like finding your audience, finding the people that you're going to connect with there. But what space western grabs my attention. My brain goes to Firefly with that.
100%. Yep.
Fan of Firefly?
I would say Firefly was the biggest influence on the stylings of this. Yeah. It's about a washed up old space gunslinger who's minding his own damn business with his AI sidekick and drinking at a bar when things kind of snowball out of control and he gets caught up in a quadrant-wide conspiracy. So the whole story is about him kind of finding a reason to get back in the game again after all these years and all the fun hijinks that him and the crew get up to.
Very nice. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Sci-fi, yeah, featuring sci-fi action, whiskey, blasters, and more.
Yeah, I mean, there's alien whorehouses and whiskey and all the stuff you'd expect in a good space western.
Right. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I definitely am gonna have to look at getting that on there. But I like the simplicity of here's the book, here's a little bit of a collector thing.
Yeah.
And you can add on past books, like easy peasy, not like here's this random thing that you don't want, but you can add on, or it's thrown into this package.
There's so much knowledge floating around out there that people try to claim is right or wrong on how to package Kickstarters together. But I mentioned I have my tabletop gaming business. I've done 27 Kickstarters for that now too, before I got into comics. So I'm no stranger to Kickstarters and fulfillment. And when I look at some comic Kickstarters that have 45 covers and different packages, and I'm like, geez, like that sounds like a nightmare. Like the point of diminishing returns for profit there is long past. So
also,
I want it to be as simple as humanly possible.
Fulfill all of those. Like you got to be this box over here and this one over here, and
right. I'd rather have that time back to just write some comics.
Yeah, 2 covers, some other stuff in here, or is it? No, it's more than one.
It's 2 covers, but since it's a double feature, the 2 covers are on the book. Yep.
I was starting to realize that as I was looking at it. It says Vesper and Sazerac there.
There's bigger images of them if you scroll down just a little bit. I think it shows them. Yep. Those are the variant covers. Yep.
Nice. Yeah, so that makes it easy on you. I like variant covers. I see sometimes, like you said, if it was 45 variant covers, that's a lot on a project. Cool art on all of them, but there's no way
to,
get in on all of that, because that's a lot of money.
Oh, I mean, and you got to cater to everyone out there too, right? Like there's plenty of collectors out there with long boxes stacked on top of each other, but I don't even read physical books hardly anymore. I'm purely digital because I have a house full of kid stuff and a wife that doesn't want me to do that. So, variant covers are great when you can, especially if you can't get them physically, there's no point to buy them all digitally probably, but is what it is.
I love the physical feel of comics, but like I keep thinking about, I'm like, all right, space. I've only got so much space for all these comics. I either have to stop getting physical. One, need to get rid of some old physicals, but can I move to a more digital future with comic collecting? Hopefully. I'll still.
I traveled for work for. I mean, I think there's a place for both, but I traveled for work for a long time, and just having my iPad in my backpack, I could pull it out in an airport and have 10 new comics to read on the flight. In 2 minutes. I mean, you can't match the ease of use of that.
Oh yeah, I love like doing with comic reviews, and I get some previews copies on things. Like I love being able to do that on digital. That's easy. I can pull it up on a device and like write on another device wherever I am. I just need to get on more like publishers lists, so then I don't have to necessarily pick up everything physically. But I think one thing I would probably do is get like trades of the ones I really love.
Sure.
Support the smaller publishers, that kind of thing. And then like cut off everything else so that I can just keep that digital,
There's something to be said for that. I personally, I'm always like laying on the couch on my side or upside down in the dark, and you can't read comics like that unless they're on a backlit device.
Right. There are so many benefits to digital. There's the tactile, I guess, side of things. I love holding them, but there's those benefits right there of digital. With Toxx, we were talking about this before the show. That's coming out through Kickstarter first.
Correct. It's going to issue 1 will hit the direct market in July, but I'm going to be kickstarting it in advance of that, all 5 issues. So probably going to package that in maybe issue number 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4, and then maybe 5 as 1, just so I can get them all done in a timely manner. I'm going to get to the direct market launch, but we shall see.
We'll have a back-to-back Toxx launch on Kickstarter following this project. Or following?
I think I got one more book I'm going to do before Toxx launches. I got a really cool anthology in my Ignis Quadrant universe that I've been working on for like 2 years that has some of the tons of the best indie creators involved with it, and I've just been sitting on their work for like a year and a half, and I got to get this out there, and I'm really excited to get that one going. But we'll see. I have so many projects to launch. I gotta put together a schedule.
Yeah. So no, that's cool. It's lots of cool things to look forward to coming up then.
Absolutely. So step one is for me to get this Mixology Noir across the funding line and get that print run done.
Yeah, so we got 8 days left. Got about a little over 2,000 to go, 2,500.
Yep.
So everyone out there, noir fans, horror fans, drink fans, if you just love Sazerac or
Yeah,
Vespers,
right.
go pick this up because you're going to enjoy the story attached to it. Whether you're watching now, watching later, seems like it's a quieter night tonight on YouTube, so a lot of people will probably
Sure.
catch this later. But I do have the link in the description so people can head on over there, check it out.
Awesome.
With comic creating, what is your strategy, I guess, going forward? You want to stick with like doing Kickstarters and taking them to indie publishers as that happens, or do you want to move to
Yeah.
that level where you go straight to the publisher and they put it out?
I think I'll still continue to self-publish. In a perfect world, if I find a large enough audience, I'd love to create my own small publisher that does Kickstarters and direct market releases, and
Yeah,
kind of brand Woven Press as its own publisher, and possibly even bring in work from other creators. But that's a multi-year vision.
the
So in
long
the
term
short term, yeah, right. In the short term, I'm just going to keep making these series and pitching them to publishers with the intent to hopefully be able to crowdfund them in advance. It's a really great business model because it helps the creator recoup a lot of the initial production costs that they have no guarantee to recoup. And then when you get to the direct market, you can feel better about investing time and energy into marketing that stuff because you have some of the resources back from the initial investment. And
yeah.
theoretically, they're very different markets, right? You're not cannibalizing one or the other by launching on both.
Yeah, a lot of the people who back Kickstarters also typically read in the regular market, but the regular market, there's so many people that won't touch Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people who
Well,
had,
don't even know there's comics on there. I've
right.
talked about people who don't even know it's a thing.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I heard of Kickstarter, but like, I don't know, that's not
Right.
where comics are. That's where people go to fund really weird projects or
Mm-hmm.
but nope, Kickstarter
Exactly.
has so many comics, books, lots of like things in the literature side of things. Musicians are on there making music. Like, I think that
Right.
was like one of the first things that brought me over to Kickstarter. Or it might have even been like a wallet or something. I don't know, something weird like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then like several years until I came back and was looking at stuff on Kickstarter and started looking at comics. And then
Right.
my wallet has been mad at me ever since.
Yeah. Right. Well, I call supporting indie comics a tax write off. Right. When you're making comics, you got to do market research. You have to understand what the market is like out there. You get to write those off, baby.
So I need to start creating comics so I can write all of this off. That's what I'm
Absolutely.
hearing. That's the only reason I need to start writing now. I've got other reasons I would, but that's honestly a good way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what other things are you looking forward to launching this year? I know, like you said, this Ignis Quadrant,
Yep.
Toxx, but it sounds like you're ready to just open up the gates and just
Oh yeah, I
book
got
after book after book out. So
yeah, I got two other miniseries in development. Just about done with issue one of both of those. One of those is mentioned at the cyberpunk MMA themed story, called The Duke of Deeptown, about a washed up old fighter who has got to get back in the ring in a dystopian future. So that's a really really cool book. Great artist on that. I'm co-writing that with CJ Hudson, who's another awesome indie
okay.
writer. And then I have another miniseries called Blood Like Velvet, which is about a female vampire in 1840s New Orleans who's being pursued by a sect of vampire hunters in the Catholic Church over the last couple hundred years. So that's
Okay.
a fun genre slash kind of historic piece. I've been having a lot of fun doing time period research on, and some amazing art and imagery and stuff in that as well.
Nice. I'm in New Orleans, so I'm like,
Oh,
all
are you?
right. Yeah,
Nice.
the Sazerac name also kind of got my attention too. So I was like, all
Yep.
right,
Yep. Absolutely.
like our Sazeracs over here.
Yep. What else I got? I got a graphic novel called Hell's Canyon that's about halfway done too. That I'm hoping to pitch to some publishers as well. And then I'm making a YA graphic novel with Devin Arscott as a co-writer. If you're familiar with Devin,
Yeah.
I think that's everything. There's probably something else I'm working on in there too. I have a lot of stuff in tandem at the moment.
So just nonstop comics, comics, comics is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'm very, very addicted with the creation process at this point. I still got to get all my ducks in a row and turn the gears on the machine to get the marketing and sales part of that totally figured out. But I'm heavily invested and excited to get these stories out. And I figured, I'm spending money to get good editors and make sure I'm improving my craft enough to make sure that the stuff I'm going to be producing is going to hold up to anything you're seeing at the comic shop. That's my goal. I don't want
Yeah.
my books to look like, rookie indie books. I want them to be polished, have great storytelling, have you pick that up and think it could be something right off of, the comic shelf.
That is one thing that more so at conventions, not on Kickstarter. Kickstarter, I feel like books are a lot more polished, but I've gone to conventions and I'm like, I want to support the indie creators over in Artist Alley, and I pick up a
Yeah.
book and like the lettering is just garbage, and I'm like, I can't look at this. So that is one
That's a
thing.
pet peeve. Yep.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like if I pick it up and it looks like I don't know, copy pasted the letters out of like I don't know, did a screen capture and put it from Word into the comic. Not gonna look at that. It's
Yeah,
one of the things.
that's an often discussed thing in indie comics. The economics of creating comics is such that to get a page of pencils and inks might cost you as little as $60, as much as $200 for one page, and then 30 to let's call it $100 to get it colored. A professional, amazing letter is like $10 to $15 a page, and everyone just not everyone, but many people cheap out on lettering. I think they can just do it themselves, and then they just devalue the entire work by doing so.
Yeah, letters are so important, and there's a lot of really good ones out there that, like you said, yeah, the cost of a letter is the cheapest part of the process. So if you're looking at the letters, they're out there doing like 20 projects probably at a time, like trying to cover expenses on everything.
Yeah, after teaching myself how to letter over the last couple of years, I would say that it's been the best thing I've done by and large, just because being able to tweak your own story in real time while you're lettering it and, kind of give graphical representation to your own words is one of the most rewarding part of the creative process, but it leads to a better finished product. But I've noticed that it takes a while to get over that initial hump of feeling like you're efficient and fast enough to make it viable. Now that I'm starting to figure it out, I can, letter 5 times faster than I could, 6 months ago. So these professional letters have their templates ready. They have stylistic stuff they're reusing. I mean, I think they go pretty dang fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I've heard like some of them talk on interviews and things, and they're just like, yeah, just over here doing this thing, and it's just like I don't know how you do it, but kudos and keep up the good work because it just solidifies the quality of the comic. So it's good that you were able to, get to that point with your own lettering and just say, now I got the efficiency up, the quality is there. One, I don't have to, I guess, wait for that process, but two, you can come in and self-edit as you go. Like, oh, this does not work in this balloon. How can I adjust this and make things better?
Yep, absolutely. Real time edits.
Yeah. Versus otherwise, you're waiting on the letter to say, hey, this isn't going to work.
Yep.
What do you want to do to address this?
Right. 100%.
Yeah. You mentioned something about like marketing and all that. So I just want to say shout out to Joey from Geek Collective, working with for this Kickstarter, and he contacted me to get you on the channel. So shout out Joey. I know he said he was prepping for a show of his own in the next 15 minutes. So he may or may not still be listening. But he was in here at some point. He said he'd be. So So yeah, shout out to Joey. He's a great guy. Doing a lot of stuff to put indie comics out there to the world, connecting people.
Yep, we need that. We appreciate it.
Yeah, honestly, I wish I had more time to do stuff like that, like he's doing, and help in that regard. The day job does not allow me to add that to my plate, but I'm like, I'll stick to what I can do with interviews and promote a couple here and there as I can.
Well, our community very much needs and appreciates the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that as well. We need more people out here talking to indie creators, especially. I know a lot of people are out there trying to like, oh, I really want to interview the people that are writing over at Marvel and DC. It's like, no, their work's out there. People know. Now, I would love to talk.
Who they are. Yeah.
I would love to talk to the indie creators that have gotten to go over there and create. I've had in the past, prior to his time doing Savage Avengers, David Pepose. We've had him on the channel talking about his indie stuff, and he's fantastic guy, fantastic stuff that he's doing. But like, I should have him back on. We were going to, and we had to cancel because of something happening. I want to talk about Savage Avengers, but I want to talk about the indie guy who's over there creating Savage Avengers.
There's Scott Snyder has a Substack where it's all about writing comics. So
yeah,
I've been a member of that for about a year now or so, which has been a great tool to learn how to be a better storyteller, obviously. But I've also really appreciated just his candor about the indie stuff he does, and I don't know if you can consider it indie at his point anymore. This creator-owned work he's doing, and all the books he wrote before he was really popular, and how he still thinks about that stuff. And I really appreciate seeing that from creators that have been around for a long time.
Yeah, I feel like they also sometimes like they like their work for hire at DC, Marvel. It's paying bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the stuff that they're creating and have really no limits on, and it's their work, I feel like you see more joy when they're like, yes, this
right,
experience this world that I'm creating here. So I'm excited to check out. I think it's Clear is the next one he's got coming out. I know it's been on Mixology.
I think that's the sci-fi one. Yep. He just announced too that Witches is getting.
I saw that
at Amazon for an animated series. I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh, I didn't realize it was animated. I just saw a headline that it was going to become a TV show. Okay.
It's animated, but it's not really traditional animation. It's kind of a painterly style that I think will lend itself really well to the horror genre.
Okay. Yeah, no, that was I didn't read it, as it was coming out. I don't even remember when that was anymore, but I read the trade paperback, I think sometime last year, and that was a phenomenal horror read.
I think that's the best horror comic that's ever been written, in my opinion. But that's one man's opinion.
It's definitely up there. It's definitely up there.
It's the only horror comic that legit gave me nightmares. I like reading horror because sometimes it can be comedic, sometimes it can be suspense or whatever, but Witches got me good.
It was grounded in a lot of reality, so I can see that. Did you read the follow-up that came in one of those Image books, like the Image anniversary anthology books?
I think the short you're talking about?
Yeah, it was like a short follow-up or prequel. I don't remember which.
I can't remember. If I didn't, I'm gonna have to check it out.
If you haven't, check it out. It's the Image anthology series that's going on right now. I want to say it was maybe issue 5 or 6 of that.
Okay. I'm gonna take a note of that.
Let me see. Image and let's see if I can check the images, because I think it's on the cover of it. It might be 7.
Got it.
Yeah, I think it's 7. But yeah, it's pretty apparent because it's got the Witches cover. It's like, yeah, it's 7.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Great
no,
recommendation.
it was a cool addition to the world there, even though it was like 6 or 8 pages, not too long. But yeah, we had a group that I guess met in that same class, Scott Snyder's writing class. They created an anthology sometime last year.
Yeah, the Cloakroom one, right?
Yeah, somewhere that's around here. I just had one of those creators back on. He's doing a Kickstarter right now for his own solo book. But yeah, so that class sounds like it's been pretty successful for a lot of people, getting out there and learning more about comics.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's not too often you get direct access and brain dumps from people that are doing things that you want to be doing that you admire. The way that Scott's doing it, so I very much appreciated that.
And he's I heard, I think this second year it's now, instead of comics writing 101, it's like 102 or something like that. The next level.
Yeah, that's correct. You're right. He did most of the basic things he wanted. Now he's starting to the plan is to review people's student stories a little more, but he's still got some fundamental stuff he wants to talk about. So we'll see where the class goes.
Nice. For everyone watching, where can they follow along with what you're doing in comics creating?
Yeah, my social media handle is Wolven, WOLVEN _press on Instagram and Twitter. I believe it's the same.
See if I can point there. There we go.
Yep, Wolven _press. And that stuff's all linked to on my website, which is wolven.press. No .com. The .press is the last part. So
I saw that.
Our stuff there too.
I didn't even know that was a finishing thing for a website. .press.
Yeah, there's like 1,000 top level domains you can get now.
Yeah, they're like, .com. It's overused. Let's move it on to other.
Yeah, and impossible to get a lot of the stuff that you want. I mean, speculators and domain managing services bought all the good stuff years ago, and there's nothing at them. So sometimes you got to work around it.
Oh yeah, I dropped your link tree also in the chat here.
Cool.
I've got your website linked. I think your Twitter and Instagram linked in the description as well for everyone watching later that wants to go follow you over on Twitter, Instagram, see what's going on with Wolven Press, creating comics, what you got coming up. But yeah, everyone go check out Mixology Noir. I almost said Comixology. My brain is on comics.
I get it.
Over here at this Kickstarter link, which is also down in the description. Really recommend everyone check this one out. It's a great read. And I'm not even a real huge noir crime kind of genre reader, and this one got me. So
good to hear.
What's up, Comics and Pops? Thank you, man. Appreciate it. But yeah, so there's the link. Go check it out. It's down at the bottom. Anything else that you're looking to plug tonight? Anything else in the queue to talk about?
No, not at the moment. Just this stuff. If you like horror, if even a little bit, you'll like these two stories. The 5-second pitch. Sazerac, the first story is about a man who gets in an argument with his wife and goes out looking for a drink and finds himself in a strange bar filled with long forgotten gods that kind of have their way with him mentally, and that and the effects of the alcohol come together to form a pretty crazy story.
Yeah.
So that's Sazerac. And then Vesper, the second story, is about an entitled woman who stops in for a martini on the way home after a night of debauchery and gets kidnapped by a Russian crime ring and held for ransom in the basement of the Russian vodka bar, and goes through a life-altering experience of her own and kind of learns the real value of family.
Yeah, that was that the family aspect in that was really, really good. Getting her to not be so maybe selfish in things,
right?
Without spoiling too much of what's going on in there, but yeah, fantastic. Both stories Thank you for coming on, talking about
Yeah.
everything here, from
Thanks for having me.
Mixology Noir to upcoming projects to things that you're reading, enjoying, inspiration for comics, how you're just nonstop creating.
Yeah, hopefully I can get back on here another day with a new project and we can chat about that.
Definitely love to have you back and chat about anything else that's coming up.
Sweet.
Thank you again for coming on. Thanks everyone who's been watching now, watching later. Really appreciate you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all those things. Please do those. Comment, let us know, you getting this. Are you loving the concept behind it? Drop those comments below and go back Mixology Noir over on Kickstarter. Have a nice night, everybody.
See ya.